This is Tommy with Elevation Every Weekend. In today's video, I'm going to show you the install of the 67 Designs TacoRail on my 2018 Toyota Tacoma TRD off-road. It shouldn't take too long. There's really only three major components, which is the TacoRail itself, the carbon arm, and then the 67 Designs general phone mount. But before we get into the installation of this, I want to show you what I've been using in the truck for over a year now and explain why I'm making the switch to the 67 Designs product. So for over a year now, I've been using this product here from ProClip Designs. There were a couple things that actually attracted me to trying this product. One, it clips on to the molding, so there was no drilling involved, which was attractive to me at the time. And it is very solid. I've never had any issues with the clip itself. The second thing was they have a MagSafe version, and as an iPhone user, I figured it would be something that would be handy and attractive to use with my iPhones. And it does work fairly well as far as ease of use. It just sticks on magnetically. So that aspect has been pretty good. And being that it's MagSafe, it does give me the option to actually charge my phone magnetically, but I do have to unravel the cable a little bit and plug it into a adapter that goes into the 12-volt plug here. As for the downsides, I've never really been a big fan of where it's placed. It's kind of far away from me, so when my phone is placed on it over here from my driving position, it's actually a pretty fair distance for using it if I'm using maps or something like that, or if I'm trying to access the phone. But the second and probably major reason is the MagSafe is just not strong enough. I find myself driving dirt roads multiple times a week, getting to trailheads to ride my bikes, which means I often am encountering potholes and obviously washboard, which is a huge issue. And I've had my phones fall off the mount just because of washboard on multiple occasions. It has cost me a couple screen protectors, but fortunately no major damage to the phones themselves. So someone who is on dirt roads quite often and off-roading for various other reasons, for camping, I found that this just was not serving my needs and I needed something more secure. I've been long familiar with the 67 Designs product, so I've decided to finally give it a go. And the other benefit, which I hope it will meet, is that it will place the phone in a better position for me, which should be like more right up here. So hopefully that'll work better once installed. So I'm going to go ahead and get this removed, and then I'm going to go through the install of the 67 Designs TacoRail on the Tacoma. Installation of the TacoRail does require moving the center console trim piece. So before we get to that, I just want to highlight one thing I always recommend if you're going to be removing any trim from your vehicle is a trim piece removal kit. I'll link a couple various ones down below, but I find these to be essential for removing trim safely, not scratching it, and more importantly, not breaking clips. So these are essential tools if you're going to be removing any plastic trim from your vehicle, whatever it may be. So here is the actual TacoRail that needs to be installed on the center console piece. I'm going to take this in the truck right now before I remove anything, just to kind of get a sense of the orientation so I can know better where exactly I want this on top of that center console piece before I remove it. So this is the piece that will need to be removed in order to actually fully install the TacoRail. The TacoRail will rest right up in this area right here, and then when it is mounted, you'll have the ram ball installed, which you can move anywhere along the length of the rail. Then you can have the arm coming off there, and then your phone mount. So I should have it sitting right in this area right here, but we'll see where it ends up when it's complete. So I'm going to change the camera angle, and I'm going to get this piece pulled off, and then we're going to get to work on installing the rail. So as you can see, the center console is removed, and this is the region that the TacoRail will reside. I'm going to put some painter's tape on it to protect it, because I need to put the TacoRail on, decide exactly where I want it, mark the 3 holes, and then drill them out so I can install the TacoRail. So we're going to do that next. Okay, I did get all 3 marks in there. So there's one right there, there's one right there, and then there's the final one right there. So I'm going to grab a bit and drill out these 3 holes, and then we're going to get the hardware installed and get this reinstalled into the truck. Okay, I got all 3 holes drilled. I ended up using an 1/8" drill bit in order to make it so that the bolts will drop straight through. So you simply will install the TacoRail, put the bolts through, and then use the washers and the lock nuts from the underneath to secure them to the centerpiece, and then reinstall it. One thing I do want to point out is there are 2 bolt sizes. There are 2 short bolts and 1 long bolt. You want to make sure the long bolt is the one that goes inside the track. It's important because the track is actually thicker than the flange part. So you need the longer bolt in this point so you can get the same amount of distance on the bottom side. All right guys, the TacoRail is now successfully installed. I'll be honest with you, it was a little bit fiddly getting these washers and nuts in here to line up with the bolts and get them fastened, especially this side here. So I ended up centering it pretty much on the screen, but by doing so, this one here was pretty easy to access. This one here has complete clearance. This one here, the nut runs right into the molding for this clip. So I actually had to use my drill to clear out some extra material just so I could even get the nut to line up with the bolt. So heads up on that. Way around that would be to orient the entire rail to the passenger side a little bit more, but that's probably not something I would prefer to do. So I was okay just to make the adjustment, but just a heads up on that aspect. But it is on there. For this, I used two things, 2mm wrench, and I ended up using needle nose pliers to hold the lock nuts in place as I screwed in the bolt. Worked well enough. You don't need a ton of torque. I mean, you are fastening this to plastic, so you don't want to over torque it anyways. So it is in place, and I'm going to get this installed and see what we got. So this aspect should be fairly straightforward. Just going to line up the red clips with the holes and press it straight back in. Next up is the ram ball, which has a hex head bolt on the top that you'll use to loosen it and tighten it. This is why they provided a 4mm wrench. Next up is the short carbon mount. That's the one I decided to go with. They do have different lengths. I'm just going to ballpark it for now. And then the 67 Designs general purpose phone mount has a ram ball on the other side of it. There we go. It is now in place. So as you can see, I have it oriented at a starting point for now. I might play with it a little bit as far as adjustability goes. I do like this position. It's close to my driving position, so I can easily see it without taking my eyes off the road for too much. And if I do need to interact with it, I'm not reaching all the way over here and having to look over here. I can quickly tap on the screen right here. It does seem really solid, so I will have to certainly test that on my washboard rows and make sure that it is secure, but it seems much more secure. Like I can't easily pull that out of here, whereas before here, when it was on that magnet mount, it would easily knock it off, or if I touched it improperly, it would get knocked off. As far as actuating it, this is spring loaded on one side, so this side is solid, this side is spring loaded, so you just simply push the phone in and push and release, and then it sets it in there, and to move it out, you just push and pull it out. So seems like it's pretty solid. We'll see if it over time, if it does give any wear and tear to the case. This is an Apple MagSafe case, but we'll see how that goes. So at this point, I'm pretty confident this is gonna do the job. I know their reputation is pretty good as far as being really solid for people doing overlanding and off-roading and things like that. So that's my expectation that it'll work well. Hey, I just wanna break in for a minute and show you some footage of me actually kind of testing this out on some real washboards so you can just see how well it works. And I've had a day or two to kind of play around with the positioning and really kind of got it dialed into where I want it. And with some better lighting, you can get a better look at the TacoRail installed and where the mount is. And yeah, it's super easy to put the phone in. You just put it in on the spring loaded side and there it is in. So I'm gonna get out to one of the rough sections of road here, and then I'll turn the camera back on so we can see how well it's gonna do. So these sections here, it's like total washboard. You can see the truck's even bouncing around. I'll try to take some of this slower, which can sometimes be worse. Bouncing around pretty good. So this is stuff that would totally lose my phone off that magnet mount that I had previously. So I'm gonna call it a success. Okay guys, it's actually a couple months later. I actually forgot to film an outro when I filmed the install video. On the upside, it does let me give you about a 2.5 month update on how the 67 Designs mount is working out. And so far, it really has been great. After getting it set in position and locked in where I wanted it, I literally haven't touched it since. And that includes a long fall camping trip and some low range off-road driving. Haven't had any issues with it. Another thing I mentioned earlier in the video that I did want to touch on is I was a little concerned with how the phone would wear, especially this Apple case, which aren't really known for their durability. And despite being put in there multiple times a day, as you can see, it's still in excellent condition. There's no signs of wear on the edges, so it's working out great. So I'm still a really big fan of the mount and continuing to use it. So if you found the video helpful, drop a like down below. It does really help out the channel. If you have any questions, comments, or experiences of your own to report back, definitely drop those down in the comments below. Lots more content on the way, so definitely subscribe to the channel if you'd like to follow along. Thanks a lot, and have a great day. There's some really rough spots coming up here. There was one right there.